Good afternoon everyone, it's Louise here from Eleanor Grace. Back with you with another video. This one is inspired by our friends in America, in the US, because I've seen this sort of having a little bit of a resurgence, and seen some beautiful examples. These are a sort of decorative version of what was I believe called a penny mat. And it was where during the American Civil War there were the pennies were larger, and they were made as a sort of template in the middle of a mat that might just be backed by something like hessian or burlap, and clothes, military uniforms, etc., would be used for the pieces, and then would be sort of probably sometimes intricately stitched, but sometimes just very simply stitched. And these are rather a sort of modern, jazzed up, I suppose, version of that. These were made together, put together with huge numbers into a mat that was obviously usually used as a sort of doormat or rug, and would have had to withstand sort of heavy trampling in and out. These I think are more decorative, so you could use them to make a wall hanging. You could sort of put a number of them together and then have another circle of felt here to sort of sew them on together, so you can make a wall hanging, or you could just use them as something that you add onto a piece of work that you're doing, as a something you could just do as you stitch, or you could sort of add on sort of to applique on. So these are a couple of the ones I've made recently. You will have seen hopefully my video which I released earlier today. I don't know if they're both going to come out the same day on YouTube, but it was about the spiderweb stitch, which is this beautiful stitch here in the middle. And you can use any of the stitches on in your arsenal that you have. You can also have a look at all my videos and look at some of the stitches and see which ones you want to use. I've used a number of them here. I've used some chain stitch. I used lots of French knots here, there and everywhere. Some of the lovely people on my Facebook group said that they thought these were beads because they were so bright and shiny, but that's because they're cotton perle, and French knots are one of my favourite stitches, so I do use them quite a lot. And I'm just going to show you the basics of how to put this together. It's incredibly simple, and then you can use whatever you like to stitch here. I've edged it with blanket stitch there, and I've just done some simple running stitch here with some more French knots. And on this one, I've done some French knots in the middle, of course, with blanket stitch around all 3 layers, and a bit of chain stitch here. And again, I've done little rows of just sort of basic running stitch and some French knots. You could use any stitch. You could use herringbone. You could use anything, chain stitch to sort of go around the edge of each piece, and you can just put it together with the stitches that you know and that you feel comfortable with. If you want to learn more stitches, I have the beginners workshop, which is already out, and that is it's a private unlisted video, so you won't find it on YouTube, but if you're interested, just pop your name on a comment, and I will send you a message and let you know how you can get hold of that. The beginners one, they're all £10, so the beginners one is £10, and it teaches most of these stitches, apart from the spider's web stitch. And the intermediate one is coming out soon, and that includes things like a woven wheel. So I've got a spider's web stitch here and a woven wheel here, and bullion stitches, and all sorts of interlaced sort of running stitches, so you can have a look and sort of see. And these videos are available to you forever, just for £10 each, and you can watch as many times as you like, and they are very much like my teaching when I do in person, so I've made them as close to that as I possibly could. So these 2 are completed. I have one here to show you how to put it together, and I have one that's in progress. So the basics of this is that you need 3 layers of felt. what you need is a felt. This is quite stiff, actually. This one is particularly quite stiff. What you don't want is a soft floppy felt. You want something with a bit of substance to it, so it's not too sort of easily bendable. So something like a wool mix, or a mix where you've got, you know, something where you can actually feel it and it's quite firm. You've got 3 layers. So what you want to do is just try cutting out different size circles. All I did was got various coins, implements, anything I had. This one here was a jam jar. That was the lid of a jam jar. This one was, I think, the bottom of a smaller jar of yogurt. And this one was a coin, so it was a British coin. The sizing really doesn't matter. If you wanted to have an idea, this is about 2.5 centimeters. This is about 3.5 to 4, and the total width, the diameter is about 5.5, 6 centimeters. But you can try and cut out, that's what I did, cut out all different sizes, put them together and saw what looks good. What you want to make sure is that you've got a space to work in each layer, so it doesn't really matter, you know, it doesn't need perfection. As I always say, perfection is not a requirement here. All you need to do once you've cut them out is get a piece of thread, ideally in a colour that is similar or that's in the shade range that you've got here. Your stitch will be covered once you've done it, but what you need to do is just knot it at the back, come up through the middle or as close to the middle. As you can see, this is by no means perfect, not a perfect circle, not a perfect circle here, but it is near enough, so that's good enough for me. You come up through the top here and then just go back in, not exactly in the same stitch but right next to where you came in, so make a very small sort of stab stitch. So you're just up and back down again, just to keep the 3 pieces together, and that's where you start from. What I would recommend to do, and this is what I did with these 2, is to start off with the edging for the 3 pieces. Now, you don't necessarily have to do them all in blanket stitch. This is with the original penny mats, I believe blanket stitch was the norm to use for putting all of the pieces together. I do recommend probably doing that bit first, because then you know how much space you've got to work with inside your first line of stitches. If you're not a blanket stitch fan, again, it's in the beginners video, but if you're not, if you don't know how to do blanket stitch or you're not keen on it, you could just do a running stitch around the edges. You could do a chain stitch around it. Certainly on the inner layers, you could do herringbone stitch. You know, you could just do simple zigzag around, whatever you fancy doing. And here I've done chain stitch on this one, I've done blanket stitch here, and on this one I decided just to do a row of French knots around the edge, but I did those first before I did any of the other intermediate stitching here. I haven't followed my own advice on the one I'm working at the moment, which is probably made life a little bit more difficult. I did on the inner layer where I've done my you can see my blanket stitch here in white, and I've done seed stitch in the middle. I've then done some little running stitches out to the edge. I just didn't put a layer around here, which is a bit silly really. So I will probably I will do that afterwards. I might just do a layer of running stitches around, or I might do a layer of blanket stitch around here. And then I quite like this sort of formal sort of stitching of using little layers of running stitch. I must admit, running stitch is not necessarily something that I use a lot in my work, and but I love the look of this, so I'm doing something similar here. If I just come in a little bit to show you. So I've done the blanket stitch, as I say, around the middle piece. I should have done this here, and I should have done my edging on here. I'll almost certainly do a blanket stitch on the edge here because I do like the look of it. This I might leave. I'm not too sure yet. I think if I fill these areas, it probably won't need anything to hold it on. But I recommend you do as I say and not as I do, and that you do the 3 layers, edges of each layer first, because then you know what you've got to work with. So I'm going to continue with this one, and I'm just going to go around. What I'm doing is I've made these sort of rough markers here of where the spokes come out more or less. I mean, it's not perfect, as you can see, it's far from perfect. And then I'm doing the next layer of spokes in between those, just to give it a sort of different look. And then I'm going to fill the in-between parts. So here, I'm going to put something in here. You can imagine it might well be a French knot, might do some bullion stitches. And then once I've gone around the edge with the running stitch here, I'm going to fill the intermediate areas there with something else as well. Again, you could use beads, little seed pearls, or whatever you fancy. It's just up to your imagination as to what you want to do with them. But I'm going to sit and finish this one and see what comes from it. So it's just a little short video to have a little project on the go. So I would love to see what you do with these. If you're on Facebook, then do come and join my group, Slow Stitching by Hand with Eleanor Grace. I would say do please agree to the rules or fill in the questions, because otherwise it doesn't automatically let you in, because we want to make sure we don't get any bots. And I would love to see what you do with these. If you're not on there, if you're on Instagram, then you can get in contact with me there. My handle on Instagram is Eleanor_Grace_UK. You can tag me in on any of your makes. I would love to see them. If you've tried a stitch out that I've you know, done a video on and you found that it's successful, I'd love to see what you've been working on. And I will be back to you shortly with more content, and the intermediate workshop will be out shortly, and we can then look at doing another workshop, which I will be doing shortly, which is to make a heart. You may have seen these already, but this is one of my slow stitch hearts. I do go through quite a lot of the stitches, but you know, I have got free videos on a lot of the stitches already. This is obviously quite intricate, there's quite a lot in here, but you can make these as simple as you like. It doesn't have to be quite as full on as this. This is just where I've followed the pattern and sort of, you know, come up with my own idea for, you know, what needs to cover you know, each section of ribbon or fabric that I've got here. And I've also made another one in sort of dual tones. I love dual tones. I tend to wear a lot more of this than I do pastels, but I love pastels and I love dual tones. I'm a real colour fan, full stop. So here we've got woven wheels, and we've got some lazy daisies and lots of lovely tactile French knots there. So this is another workshop that's coming up. So again, if you're interested, you can always pop a note on to say, you know, please tell me more about the heart workshop. And if you have put your name down to any of the videos that you think you might be interested in, the workshops, do please check your message requests, because sometimes messages from someone like me who doesn't know you will not come through to your main messenger account. So if you have left a message, or if you think you may have put a comment on one of the videos, then do just put a comment on here, and I will get back to you and let you know. The heart workshop won't be out for a few weeks because I'm just going to be taking off a little bit of time now, but I'm finishing off the intermediate one, and the beginners one is out already. I will just show you very briefly what they will be making. So the beginner's workshop is to make a bookmark, like this. In fact, It is that way round because I've got some of the basic stitches here. So that's feather stitch, lazy daisy, seed stitch, French knots. We've got some chain stitch here, got some blanket stitch here. So the beginners does have a lot of stitches on it, a lot of the basics, and also somewhere here I believe we've got some herringbone as well, but I'm just trying to find it. May not be on this one. And the intermediate is to make a little this little needle case, little stitch case. So I show you the basic stitches and how to make one of these. And again, this is just, you go through a lot of the same stitches as the beginner, but also go into other ones that we haven't looked at before, like bullion and also the woven wheel. So yeah, those are 2 workshops that are this one's on the way, the other one, the beginners, is available, and the heart workshop will follow after that. I hope anyway this has been interesting for you to have a look at these penny mats, and I'll be grateful for any comments from our American friends as to whether I've got the information right. I've done quite a lot of research on this, but you know, you not coming from America, obviously we don't know for sure, but that's my understanding of these. And you can really make anything with these. You could stitch them all together and make as I say, a wall hanging, something quite decorative, or you could just add them as individual pieces to another larger piece of work that you're working on. So thanks very much for your time, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.